Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We do have people who are still joining, but to be respectful of your time, we're just going to get rolling here. So my name is Felicia, Dr. Felicia O'Rourke. I work in our Health Professions Advising Office. Today is the second day of our pre-health week, and we're going to be talking more about the early and accelerated application program. So there's a few here at Northwestern. We'll go over the three that are available to you all once you are successfully admitted to Northwestern, and just talk through each of these components. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about in terms of pre-health week, we have partnered with our amazing undergraduate admissions team to host this pre-health week. So every day this week there is a program for you all. Last night, if you did not catch it, we did pre-health at Northwestern, where we did a great overview of our office and the services we provide. Today, obviously, we'll be talking about early and accelerated programs. Tomorrow, we have a student panel that's going to be talking more about student life at Northwestern, so you can hear right from people who are walking that walk right now. Thursday, all things academic. So some of the questions you maybe have around what's a good major, what's a good GPA, what courses do I need, how does my AP credit work? That's going to be a good session to go to. And then Friday is, of course, talking through all of those wonderful extracurriculars, all of those things outside of the classroom that help to craft a strong application. There is just one of me tonight, so we will hopefully have time to answer some questions at the end. I won't be able to scan the questions as I'm presenting, but at the end I'll try to get through as many that are submitted. There should be the Q&A function for you all, or the chat is completely fine as well. Hopefully some of these questions get answered for you anyway, and this program is set for 30 minutes. So a snapshot of our team. So Health Professions Advising, when you get accepted to Northwestern, you start that first year, that first fall, you get a college advisor. Great. They help you with your major and when you register and the courses. And then you also get a Health Professions Advisor. And a little bit of snapshot of what our team does is we work with you on kind of all things related to pre-health. So what are some of the courses that I do need for a specific program? What experiences do I need? Can you help me with my applications and review them? Yes, we do that with all of our applicants, and really talk about everything under the sun. How to connect you to experiences, maybe class isn't going well, you want to talk through it, and really providing a lot of emotional support as well, because it's kind of a roller coaster going through pre-health for sure. So we're here to kind of support you all the way through. We work with you from the time that you start until basically you don't need us anymore. So we're one of the few offices that works with you after you graduate as well. So it's pretty common to take gap years within the pre-health professions. And we work with you during that time. So your services never really get cut off from us. You basically always have us until you're accepted and don't need us anymore, or you just don't want to use us anymore, which is, I think, a pretty incredible service to have. As you saw on the last slide, we have dedicated advisors, and you're with kind of the same one all the way through. But today, we're going to be talking about these three programs. So this is where higher education, you start to get really in the weeds with all these fun acronyms. So these ones are probably the longest and the most confusing, but Feinberg School of Medicine, which is through Northwestern, has three programs that are available to undergraduate students to be able to apply early to, and start taking classes a little early. They all have a little bit subtle nuanced differences, but the three that we're going to talk about is the Pre-Physical Therapy Scholars Program, NUPPTSP. So if you are thinking, yeah, I want to be a physical therapist, and you like Feinberg and you like Northwestern, then this could be a program that might be of interest to you. The second one, we'll talk about the Accelerated Public Health Program. So again, specifically to those who maybe are interested in public health. Sometimes we see people do this program as well and then continue on to their said clinical health profession. So medicine, physical therapy, whatever it might be. We have a lot more practitioners that are kind of combining their clinical work with the public health work as of lately, which has been interesting. And this program allows for that. So when I talk about it, I'll kind of talk you through the timeline and how that can work. And then the probably the more popular one of the three is Northwestern University Pre-Med Scholars Program. So this is specifically for those who are interested in becoming a physician and wanting to go to medical school at Feinberg. So we'll dive in a little bit more to each of them. So starting from the top, physical therapy, so early assurance program. So what that means is that you're applying earlier than the standard application cycle. So you would apply the third year at Northwestern. So if accepted, you would start that program the fall after you graduate. So it's right away, right? You finish, you graduate in the spring, yay, get your summer, and then you're going to start the fall right away. It is a binding commitment, so it means if you are applying to this early and you get accepted, you're good to go, that you're not applying to anywhere else. That is where you're going. So that is part of the commitment with this. You're also, a perk of it is you're exempt from taking the GRE, and the GRE is a graduate records examination. So kind of like an SAT or ACT for graduate school. Many physical therapy programs require the GRE, and if you are accepted through this early program, you don't have to take it, which makes a lot of people very happy. To be eligible for this program, you have to complete the prerequisite coursework. You have to have a strong GPA and a good set of experiences, and we'll kind of talk about that on the next slide. It is highly competitive. Up to 5 students are admitted each year. It's primarily competitive because you're applying a year to 2 years earlier than the standard application pool of people. So it's tough, right? It's tough to show the level of experiences that you need and the course, getting the coursework done and the GPAs and all of that. That's not to say you can't do it, but it is important to just understand kind of the expectations around this. So they like to see 2 years of undergraduate coursework in residence at Northwestern. So it is still eligible for transfer students, typically after you transfer after your first year. If you transfer beyond that year, then it gets a little tricky, but probably don't have enough of that coursework done at Northwestern to be eligible for this. They do look for a science GPA of a 3.5 or higher. So often in health professions, you'll see GPA broken into like your overall or your cumulative GPA. So that's all the courses you've taken, then your science GPA. Science GPA typically encompasses your biology, your math, your physics, your chemistry courses. And that's where they're looking predominantly to see like, okay, can you handle the rigor of this program when you get to it? Another successful applicant tip is to work closely with our office. Our office, as I mentioned before, we do 2 application reviews for every application round. So we'll read your personal statements, we'll read your experiences section, we'll go through the entire application, make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed before you kind of submit that in. Again, you certainly don't have to use us, but we are a helpful service to help make sure that you are submitting and putting your best foot forward. They want to see that demonstrated commitment to being a physical therapist. That kind of goes into that next bullet. They want to see that several observation hours. So physical therapy, many programs like require some observation hours, and that's whether it's either working or volunteering or shadowing someone who is a physical therapist so that they can see like, oh yeah, I have learned about the profession, I understood it, and here's why I want to do it. Other components of a successful application include having some research experience, continuing to volunteer, so not too different probably from the service that you might be doing now to get into college, exposure to the field, which I kind of already mentioned, through shadowing, working, interning, volunteering, lots of ways to get exposure to the field, and leadership and extracurriculars. So if you really like your dance club, or if you're really into club soccer or whatever it might be, they want to see you pursuing those things. They want to see that well-rounded individual and that you're holding some elevated responsibilities outside of just physical therapy interests. And then, of course, rounding it out with a very convincing, thoughtful, sincere written application and interview, which again, we help with. We also provide mock interviews to everyone who gets an interview invitation. So we are really in it with you the whole way through. So the Accelerated Public Health Program, pivoting gears a little bit. This one is titled a little different. You'll notice an Accelerated Public Health Program because similar to the physical therapy one, apply in your third year, 3.5 overall GPA requirement. So this one doesn't have such a focus on the science side of things. Still a binding commitment. So you're going to go there. You're not going to apply anywhere else. Also exempt from the GRE, which is great. But how this one differs from the physical therapy and the medicine one is that you actually have the opportunity to begin taking some of those graduate level courses your senior year of college. So you start taking those courses the winter of the senior year of college. You'll continue with that program after you graduate. And what's great about this program is it can be completed in 1 year, unlike the physical therapy program. You also, because you've started some of those courses early, because you started them senior year, you have the opportunity to go abroad while you're in that program for the field experience requirement. So the public health program requires all of their students to have a field experience, which is basically you working and your exposure to the field more. And because you've taken some of those classes, you have that opportunity to go abroad if you have more of that interest in global health aspects of public health. Successful candidates, required courses, not quite as many required courses that you'll see compared to medicine and physical therapy, but they do still like to see a human biology course, and they like to see a mathematics or statistics class. Typically not very difficult to get those courses in at your time at Northwestern. Again, working closely with us on your application, getting connected to experiences, making sure you're kind of crafting a strong application. This program does like to see high academic achievers. Again, that demonstrated commitment to the field of public health. They also are interested, as are many public health programs, in making sure that you are dedicated or you have an openness to understanding and promoting health equity and understanding some of those systems that are negatively impacting some of our marginalized population. So that's a big point of emphasis there. They are also inquiry driven, so interest in public health, but also a particular interest in having those analytical skills, that theoretical background, that foundation, you know, of that research background is important to them so that you can translate that research into actual public. Similar to other programs, having some research experience, continuing that service, showing exposure to the field, whether you're interning, service, shadow, working. What's really wonderful about Northwestern degrees and being in a quarter school is that you can intern for an entire quarter, and that's the only thing you're doing. You can get a full course worth or a full quarter's worth of credit to be interning, and it will apply to your major. There's not a lot of schools that can do that. And because we're in a quarter system, we have the ability to do that. So it's pretty awesome that it can be part of your degree while also enhancing your application and enhancing some of what you need for some of these programs. And that's true for any, like, just across the board. That's not specific to public health candidates. That's for anyone really who's interested in doing an internship. And again, being really reflective about your experiences when writing a convincing, thoughtful, sincere application and conducting an interview with a good presence. Okay. I get the most questions about the pre-medical scholars program, NUPPTSP, early assurance program to Feinberg School of Medicine. So you would apply in December of your junior year, of your third year. Also still eligible for transfer students, typically transfer after your first year, because this one also requires that you're in residence for 2 years, completing some of that Northwestern science coursework. You don't have to take the MCAT if you're accepted through it. It is a binding commitment similar to the past two that we've talked about, and it is also highly competitive. We are seeing a trend of application numbers going up every year. So the last year, I think we were in the mid-50s amount of people who applied, and this past year we were over 90. So we're seeing this number grow and grow, and then consistently we're seeing about like 10 to 15 students who are getting admitted each year. Successful candidates typically have a pretty robust set of time that they're applying in their junior year, and that is what makes it pretty competitive. Is undergoing that coursework and trying to gain these experiences is a challenge for sure when you're competing with individuals who are consistently taking gap years. So that's what makes it a little bit more elevated in terms of competition. Feinberg Admissions Group has consistently said to us, you know, if we like everyone, we'll take everyone. So it's not about limiting, it's more just about, have you shown the dedication and you shown us that you can handle the rigor of coursework. So it does have a pretty high GPA benchmark. It looks really good, 3.7 science GPA. And that is because they are basing their entire decision off your ability to be successful in medical school without the MCAT. So that benchmark is not quite as high for the standard application cycle, I will share. So definitely don't get discouraged if you don't get or are at that mark. That's why you're seeing it here. But what they're looking for in an NUPPTSP candidate is not too different from what from a candidate who's applying a regular cycle. So they're going to quality over quantity, and it's truly any kind of research. They like to see a consistency of service, so volunteering on a regular basis in a clinical setting, which is, I should have explained that earlier, sorry. A clinical setting is really anywhere where there's patient care happening. So a hospital, a clinic, a rehabilitation facility, a nursing home, a hospice center, those are all considered clinical settings. Non-clinical is basically everything else. So if you're tutoring, if you're volunteering at a soup kitchen, if you're doing clothing drives, things like that, that would be non-clinical service. Medical schools do like to see that you've had some shadowing. Somewhere online it says you need a ridiculously high amount of hours. On average, most people have between 15 to 50 hours of shadowing at the time that they're applying and being successful in the application cycle. Shadowing is just a way for you to learn about the profession and understand if physician's the right route for you. There's lots of ways to help people in healthcare. There's lots of professions. So shadowing really helps you get a look at that profession's they do. And then the leadership and extracurriculars, they do like to see that you've held some elevated leadership roles, you've taken on a bigger responsibility, you've managed in a capacity larger than maybe a membership might hold. And that can be a formal title or an informal title. We don't have to put too much emphasis on having the president of the exec board or director of this, really just experiences where you're taking on a little more. Working closely with us, so we have a pretty robust set of support that we offer for students in the fall leading up to that application. It includes a presentation from Feinberg themselves, it includes how to write your application, it includes some connection to previous successful applicants, so lots of support in this process. And then writing that convincing, thoughtful, sincere written application and conducting yourself in that interview. Feinberg does actually outline their own metrics of accepted applicant characteristics. So what you'll see from this, and what I always kind of like to highlight, is one of these little star points is academic and preparedness and excellence, and then the rest have very little to do with your academic. So I always like to just scale people back that, yes, it's important to do well in your coursework, but it's really important that you're a service-centered individual. It's really important that you want to collaborate with others and that you're showing that and you're gaining experiences to enhance those skills, because those are things that Feinberg's looking for. And this is available to anyone on their website. We usually encourage everyone to kind of reflect on these competencies that they list, and every single one of them has a description under it as well if you click on it, and relate that to your experiences and be reflecting on your experiences to see how you connect to Feinberg. So that was very fast. This is more just a slide of how you can get in contact with us. So our email is on here. We also have a function on our website called Ask an Advisor, where you can kind of submit a question pretty quickly. And you're also more than welcome to follow us on Instagram. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pivot over to the Q&A, and I'm just going to answer some of the questions verbally. So just give me a minute to scan through, and then I will be back with some answers. Oh yeah, great question. How many applicants to the program every year? How many get admitted? I'm not sure which program this is in reference to, but for the medicine, so NUPPTSP, or the Pre-Medicine Scholars Program, I shared with you this past year, there was over 90. There was around 20 that ended up getting admitted. So it was actually our highest year. The year before we were at 15 got admitted and around 50 were applying. So if you meet those requirements, we are a big advocate for it's worth filling out the application, provided that you're not compromising your academic success in your coursework or your mental wellness or all of that, because it is a good experience to fill out the application. And if it doesn't work out, then you have a pretty completed application to go into that application cycle that spring. And that's true for any of those programs. We don't have numbers on the public health program, and the only numbers that we consistently get feedback on for the physical therapy is how many get admitted, which is around 5. Okay, let's see. Next question. Can you still study abroad in your undergraduate junior year for applying to any of these programs? Really great question. Absolutely, yes. So what's really wonderful about these applications is that you can work on them in advance. So for all of them, specifically for the physical therapy and the medicine one, we consistently tell our advisees, start that application in the summer and just work on it slowly over time, 30 minutes a week over the summer, and you're gonna have a pretty completed application so that when you're abroad in that fall of junior year, wonderful, you're already working on it, maybe you're polishing and refining things, but you can submit. I will say a majority of our students end up going abroad in the fall. The way the quarter system works out is most abroad programs follow a semester-based system. So if you go abroad in the fall, it's great, you miss one quarter. And many programs, if you go abroad in the spring semester, you're knocking out winter and spring quarter, if that makes sense. Certainly there's some outliers there where you might find one that's one quarter, but most people are going in the fall or the summer. So it really shouldn't have too much of an impact on your ability. I had a good handful of applicants this past year who were abroad. Someone was in Copenhagen, right, working on their application. We do Zoom meetings with our students. So I was Zooming her at whatever hour it was for her, and we were talking about our application. So that support very much exists throughout it as well. Okay, next question. How do most successful applicants to these programs declare, how early do most successful applicants to these programs declare their undergraduate major? Thank you. So everyone has to have their major declared by the end of their sophomore year. So everyone's declared by the time that they're applying here. And I appreciate you bringing up this question because these programs, they truly don't care what you major in. They want you to major in something that's interesting to you. If you elect to major in something that doesn't require any of those like science prerequisite courses, then you just take those while you're doing your major classes. Northwestern's degree is flexible, so it allows for space for you to take those classes alongside maybe a major that isn't in the sciences. So truly go towards the majors you like, declare whenever you want. Everyone will be declared by the end of their sophomore year before you apply to these programs anyway. How competitive is the APHP, the public health program? Program seems like an amazing, ideal program for numerous students. It is. It's a pretty awesome awesome program. And I will have many students who will apply to this with the intent to also then apply for medical school and do the public health program in their gap year, right? And then continue on to medical school, which I actually didn't clarify. And I mentioned that I was going to on how that timing worked. So that's certainly an option as well that I have a current student doing. In terms of competition, not that I would say it's not competitive. You certainly have to have a robust application and it has to be hitting those parameters that they want. But I wouldn't put it in that same kind of level of competition of only 5 are getting admitted, only 10 to 15 are getting admitted. It seems like they're a little bit more open from what we can tell anyway on how they're admitting students. I think I answered that next question. Okay, good question here on NUPSP one. What distinguishes NUPSP from other early MD acceptance programs, and how does it align with the goals, values, Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine? Yeah, good question. So NUPSP, the pre-med scholars program, is only available to Northwestern undergraduate students. No one else in the country can apply for this. So this is exclusively an opportunity for Northwestern students. There's very, very few, and to my knowledge, there's only other one in the country called FlexMed that you apply towards the end of your junior year at Feinberg School of Medicine. That's an early application program. That's open to everyone, but many of the other kind of early acceptance programs that are out there are specific to schools. So that if you find one that isn't and is open to everyone, I would love to know about it. But I think the primary distinguisher is this is exclusively for Northwestern students. But I imagine that it's not too different from maybe what other schools are doing for their early acceptance programs with their specific schools. Let's see. Oh yeah, just one question, so I'll just say it again. I was a little late. Can you share the presentation? So this presentation is being recorded, and our Northwestern undergraduate admissions team has a YouTube channel. If you haven't been on it, it's pretty fantastic to learn a lot about Northwestern. But after the completion of this pre-health week, all of these recordings are going to be on YouTube, so you can kind of go back through and you can click through things and you can read. Okay, one question about what are Northwestern's neuroscience programs? Can definitely answer that, I think, from an undergraduate perspective. So neuroscience is actually our second most popular major. So we have a lot of individuals interested in that. Neuroscience aligns really well with the prerequisites for most, if not all, of the health professions. Within the neuroscience program, you'll have core classes in chemistry and biology and neuro core courses. And then you get to kind of pick a concentration, which is nice. Many of our individuals elect to do a allied field one, but there's also one that's a little bit more focused on brain, right? So you get to specialize within it, but there is just kind of one major that encompasses neuroscience at the undergraduate level. Let's see. Okay, is it possible to study abroad while in the pre? I think I answered that one. Yes, definitely possible to study abroad while pursuing pre-medicine and in that scholars program. So the scholars program is an admissions pipeline. That's all it is. So once you're admitted through Northwestern or NUPPSP, then you enter medical school like everyone else, and then you're just in there. It's just a different access point is all it is. So I should have made that clarification, but there's nothing kind of additional that you have to do. There's nothing more happening after you're accepted. It's just an early application program. Does HPA help with getting opportunities for research, clinical volunteering? Yes, absolutely. That's probably most of my conversations that I'm having with people is helping them kind of understand where and how they can obtain these experiences. We do also have an Office of Undergraduate Research, and they have dedicated advisors for research. So when you start getting a little bit more in the weeds of maybe you want to write a grant and you're putting together a proposal or working with a professor, they can definitely help you with that. But they are amazing. And in terms of clinical volunteering, one of the benefits of being at Northwestern in Evanston, but then also the Chicagoland area, is there is no shortage of clinical volunteering exposure, and certainly no shortage of individuals wanting free work. So there is an overwhelming amount of places that you can get this exposure, and often with students, what I am triaging with them is let's look into them. All of them have a little bit different setup. Sometimes they want you to have this much commitment, sometimes this, right? So it's more about kind of researching them and see what works for you. Does that location work for you? And that's a lot of what our office is doing is here's the options. Which one do you want to go to? Which one do you want to work with? This is a really good question. When considering who to accept in these accelerated programs, do you consider high school achievements, or is it primarily based on what you've done at Northwestern? Primarily based on what you've done at Northwestern. So that's the set of experiences that we're looking for. There is certainly opportunity to talk about really pivotal experiences that happened in high school, and that usually comes into play in the personal statement. So all of these applications ask for a personal statement where you're talking about your journey and your interests and how you got excited about these different areas, how you've learned and confirmed that this is what you want to do. And that is where you're going to do that. You might be talking about the initial spark and this really pivotal, impactful moment that you had in your personal statement, but we really want to rely on our experiences in college to convey to them that this is what you want to do. We're getting really short on time, so I'm just going to scan through the questions that I can get to and see if there's anything else that is kind of rising to consistently being asked. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, that's a good question. I think a good one to end on because it kind of goes through what our office does. Is there a counselor assigned early to prospective students interested in their path? Right now, no, there's not a set for that, primarily because we just don't have the capacity. If you saw, our office is a small team. Over half of the incoming class every year identifies themselves as pre-health. So we have a large population of students. So we don't have students dedicated, or we don't have counselors dedicated to prospective students at this time, only individual calculated here. We certainly are your questions over email, over the Ask an Advisor function, so you are welcome to reach out that way to help get any of your questions answered. Our admissions team is pretty awesome at helping field a lot of these questions as well, because they get them pretty consistently. So you may even get more from them than you might from our measures of asking questions here. So I know that I did not answer all of these questions. There's a lot funneling through in the chat. So I really want to encourage you that if your question did not get fully answered here, please email us, send an Ask an Advisor function, and we will send that back out to you all. But I just want to say thank you all for joining tonight. I know that the college process and selecting and learning about it is incredibly stressful. So just kind of stick with it, take it day by day, and we're here to support you how we can through it. But otherwise, have a great night, and let us know what questions you have and how we can support you. Thank you all.